Om Shanti. This is the Avyakt Murli of 14th of January, 1988. And the title is The Reason for Unhappiness is Disobedience in Little Things. Today, the unlimited, the greatest of all fathers, the Father who makes you into the highest and high, is especially seeing out of all the children everywhere, his obedient children. All consider themselves to be obedient children, but they are number-wise. Some are always obedient, whereas others are obedient, but not always. All the children come in the list of obedient children, but there is definitely a difference. The Father who gives instructions gives all the children the same instructions. He doesn't even give a variety of directions or separate directions to individuals. So, why is it still number-wise then? Those who are always easily an embodiment of the awareness of the Father's instructions in every thought and every action automatically move along in their every thought, word, and action according to those instructions, whereas those who do not become an embodiment of that awareness repeatedly have to bring them into their awareness. Sometimes, because of having that awareness, they move along while being obedient, whereas at other times, they remember the instruction after moving along because they are not an embodiment of the awareness of the instructions. Because they don't experience in their actions the instant and visible fruit of elevated actions, they remember later, when the action is over, why they received that fruit. They check themselves after performing the action, and they thereby understand that they haven't experienced the visible fruit because of not moving along according to the Father's directions. That is not being an embodiment of the awareness of the instructions, but having awareness after seeing the fruit of your actions. So number one is easily and automatically to be an embodiment of awareness, obedient. The second number are those who sometimes perform actions with that awareness and sometimes have that awareness after performing their actions. Don't even ask about the third number. There are two rosaries. The first is a small rosary and the second is a bigger rosary. There is no rosary of the third number. This is why Baba is only speaking of two categories. Because of performing actions according to instructions from Amrit Vela throughout the day till night time, number one, obedient children do not experience having to labor in any action, but they experience the special fruit of blessings from the Father as the fruit of their being obedient. This is because obedient children always have blessings from the heart of Bap Dada at every step. Therefore, because of having blessings from the heart, their every action is fruitful. For action is the seed, and the attainment from that seed is the fruit. Because the seed, that is, every action of every number one obedient soul is powerful, they attain contentment and success as the fruit of every action. There can be contentment by itself as a result of action and also through connection and relationship with many souls. The number one obedient souls naturally and constantly experience all three types of contentment. Sometimes children are content with their own actions, that they performed very good actions with the right method, and yet at other times they are not able to see the fruit of contentment as much as they think they should. In some cases, they are content with themselves. They are content with their fruit, but there isn't contentment in their connections and relationships. So, that would not be called being a number one obedient soul. A number one obedient soul would experience contentment in all three things. According to the present time, some souls sometimes experience themselves to be discontent through some elevated, obedient children. You would think that there is no one with whom everyone is content. Someone or other would always be discontent. But there are many reasons for that. Because of not knowing their own reasons, there is a misunderstanding. Secondly, according to their own intellect, they have too many desires or expectations of the seniors. And when those expectations are not fulfilled, they become discontent. Thirdly, because of past sanskars and nature and the karmic accounts of some souls, those who should become content are not content. Because of this, there is no reason why others should be discontent with number one obedient souls or elevated souls, but they do remain discontent due to their own reasons. This is why, in some cases, it seems as though someone is discontent with everyone. However, in that too, the majority, at least 95%, would be content. 5% would be seen as discontent. So, the majority of the number one obedient souls would make others content in all three ways. Because of constantly performing every elevated action according to instructions, because of being content after performing every action, their mind or intellect would not be repeatedly disturbed by their actions, whether they did the right thing or not. Those of the second category often have thoughts in their mind after performing the action as to whether they did the right thing or not. In your language, you speak of this as your conscious biting, because you did not do the right thing. The conscious of a number one obedient soul would never bite, because of doing everything according to the instructions. They always remain light, for they don't have the burden of the bondage of karma. You were told earlier too that one is to have the relationship of karma and the other is to perform actions under the bondage of karma. So, a number one soul comes into relationship of karma and is therefore always light in every action because of receiving special blessings from Bapdada. A number one soul would constantly experience internal willpower as a result of blessings. Such a soul would always experience supersensuous joy. He would always experience himself to be full and complete. Sometimes, do you know what some children say when they put the condition of their heart in front of the Father? I don't know why, but today I feel empty inside. Nothing much has happened as such, but yet there isn't the experience of perfection or happiness. At that time, they didn't perform a wrong action or make a little mistake, but while moving along, because of being ignorant or careless from time to time, they don't do everything according to instructions. Firstly, the burden of disobedience to time pulls you towards itself at some moment, just as the strong sanskars and nature of the previous birth sometimes pull you towards themselves, even against your conscious wish. Similarly, from time to time, the burden of your disobedience sometimes pulls you towards itself. Those are karmic accounts of the past, and these are karmic accounts of the present time. Because no account, whether of this birth or past births, can be burnt without your being in the stage of an embodiment of the fire of love. Because of not constantly having the stage of being an embodiment of this fire, that is, because of not constantly having the stage of powerful remembrance, of the seed stage, of being a lighthouse and might house, you are unable to burn your karmic accounts, and that is why the accounts that still remain pull you towards themselves. You don't make a mistake at that time, and yet you feel, I don't know what happened. Sometimes your mind won't be able to stay in remembrance or in service, and sometimes there will be waves of unhappiness. One is to experience peace through knowledge, and the other is the peace of dead silence where there is no happiness or bliss. That is peace without any sweetness. The heart's desire would just be to go and sit somewhere in solitude. All of these things are signs of being disobedient in one way or another. The burden of karma pulls you. One form of disobedience is to commit a sin or to make a big mistake, and the second is disobedience in little things. For instance, the father's instruction is, at Amrit Vela, stay in powerful remembrance according to the right discipline. So, what would you say if you do not observe this instruction at Amrit Vela? Would that be being obedient or disobedient? Perform every action as a karma yogi with the feeling of being an instrument. With humility, you have these instructions. There is a long list of these, but Baba is just quoting one as an example. You have been given instructions for everything, your vision, your attitude, etc. Out of all these instructions, if you don't follow any one instruction in the right way, it is known as being disobedient in little things. If you continue to accumulate in this account, then it will definitely pull you towards itself. And this is why you say that you are unable to experience as much as you want. When you are asked, are you moving along okay? You all say, yes. However, when you are asked if you are experiencing as much as you should, you then have to think about it. While receiving so many signals, while being knowledgeful, if you are still unable to experience as much as you should, What is the reason for that? The burden of the past and the present do not allow you to become double light. Sometimes you become double light, and sometimes the burden brings you down. You don't constantly experience the stage of supersensuous joy and peace filled with happiness. You don't experience the attainment of the lift of special blessings from Bap Dada for being obedient. This is why you sometimes find it easy, and at other times you find you have to labor. You very clearly heard about the specialties of a number one obedient soul. So, who is number two then? Those who are lacking these specialties are number two, and they become the beats of the second number rosary. So, you want to become part of the first rosary, do you not? Nothing is difficult. The instruction for every step is very clear. So, it is easy or difficult to move along according to that. The instruction is the Father's steps. So, it is easy to place your steps in His footsteps. Is it not? In any case, all of you are true Sitas, the brides. So, the brides place their steps in His footsteps, do they not? This is the method. So, what is difficult? In the relationship of a child too, a child is one who follows the footsteps of the Father, one who does what the Father says. The Father says and the child does. This is known as being number one, obedient. So, check and change yourself. Acha, to all the most obedient, elevated souls everywhere, to the special souls who always experience the blessings received from the Father, to the great souls who always experience contentment and success in every action, to the obedient children who place their footsteps in the Father's footsteps, Bap Dada's love, remembrance, and namaste. Bap Dada meeting groups. Do all of you experience yourselves to be easy yogi, Raj yogi, elevated souls? An easy yogi means a natural yogi. It isn't that you have yoga only when you especially have a yoga. In that case, instead of being a yogi, you would become one who is viyogi, separated, not in yoga. That would not be called being an easy yogi. You have an easy yogi life, and a life is for all time. A yogi life means to be a constant yogi. To have yoga for 2 hours or 4 hours would not be called a yogi life. Since you have one Father and none other, then of course you would remember just the one, would you not? To stay in remembrance of one is an easy yogi life. To be a constant yogi means to be one with a yogi life. When others have yoga, it is only when they specially have yoga that their yoga is connected, whereas Brahmin souls always stay in yoga because you have made your life like that. You are yogis while walking and moving around, while eating and drinking, etc. There is just the Father and I. If there is anyone else hidden somewhere, you will remember that one. To have a constant yogi life means to be a constant yogi. You would not say, I am unable to have yoga. how can I have yoga? Would you? Since you have no one except the Father, then there is no question of how to connect your yoga. It is when your intellect goes towards another that your yoga breaks, and when it breaks, you then have to make effort to connect again. However, you should not have to make effort to connect. You say, Baba, and in a second, you become an embodiment of remembrance. In fact, there is no need even to say anything. You already are. To have this experience is to have a yogi life. So, you are always easy yogi souls. Continue to move forward with this experience. Do you always consider yourselves to be spiritual pilgrims? While on a pilgrimage, what do you remember? You would only remember the place you have to go. If you remember anything else, you would make effort to forget that. If you go on a pilgrimage to a goddess, then you continue to say along the way, salutations to the mother, salutations to the mother. If you remember anyone else, it would not be considered to be good. You would remind one another, remember the mother, goddess. Do not remember your home and children. Remember the mother. So, what do the spiritual pilgrims always remember? Do you remember your home, the supreme abode? That is where you have to go. So, do you remember both your home and your kingdom, heaven, or do you also remember other things? You don't remember the old world, do you? It should not be that because you are living here in this world, you remember it. While living in it, remain separate from it, because the more detached you remain, the more you will be able to remember the Father with love. So check, while living in the old world, are you trapped in the old world? A lotus lives in the dirt, but is separate from it. So, you have to live here for service, not because of attachment. So, you mothers do not have attachment, do you? If something happens to your grandchild, would you have attachment then? If the grandchild cries, does your mind cry? Where there is attachment, the sorrow of others is felt to be your own sorrow. It should not be that because the child has fever, you also have fever in your mind. Attachment pulls. Of course, there will be papers. Sometimes one grandchild would not be well, sometimes another. Sometimes there will be problems about money. Sometimes there will be problems of your own illness. All of that will happen, but always remain detached. Do not become attached. Are you free from attachment to this extent? Mothers have attachment in relationships, whereas men have attachment to money. In earning money, they will even forget to have remembrance. To work for the sake of the livelihood of your body is one thing, but to become so engrossed in it that you forget your study and the practice of remembrance is attachment. So, you don't have attachment, do you? The more you become a conqueror of attachment, the more you will become an embodiment of remembrance. Blessing, may you be constantly unshakable and immovable and finish all upheaval with the consciousness of being an instrument. When you have the consciousness of being an instrument, many types of the consciousness of I and mine easily finish. This consciousness liberates you from many types of upheaval and enables you to experience the stage of being unshakable and immovable. You don't have to labor in service either. The intellect of those who are instruments always remembers that whatever they do, others will follow them. To be an instrument for service means to come onto the stage. Everyone's vision automatically goes towards the stage. So, this consciousness also becomes a means of safety. Slogan: be detached in everything, and you will experience the support of God the Father.